The debate last night had a very bizarre vibe, as Sam observed. None of the candidates really went after DeSantis at all. They went after the guy in third right now, Vivek. And that would make sense based on past track records of these kinds of things if DeSantis were the front runner. But he's not. It's Trump, the guy who wasn't there. It's almost, this has happened before. Remember the Democratic debates, how no one really went after Biden enough, and it ended up being Warren and Bernie going at it, and Tulsi versus Kamala, the lower tier candidates eating each other up. And that was somewhat reflective in this debate, but the problem is that DeSantis isn't the number one guy. He's like 30 to 40 points behind the number one guy. And they were all afraid to take on Trump. We'll talk about this later in the show, but the only candidate on that stage out of 8 who did not raise their hand to say they would support Trump as the nominee even if he were convicted was Asa Hutchinson. Chris Christie, for all his tough talk, tried to play it off that he was, just raising his hand to get in the conversation. It was a bizarre, weak move. So at the very least, the best case scenario for him is that his answer on that is muddled. And there were just some other things like, DeSantis seemed entirely ornamental. He abandoned wokeness. I don't even think he said the word woke once because it's not testing well with Republicans anymore. And so that's the kind of slimy guy that he is. And I think that comes through. On Ukraine, Vivek was going hard against funding it. Then the more establishment Republicans like Nikki Haley, they were going at each other on that.
It's important to also add that the funding of Ukraine was a missed opportunity to both agitate against China by invading Mexico, basically.
Yes, right. I almost memory hold that. And there also was some really concerning stuff on abortion, like the Christian theocrats, Mike Pence, Asa Hutchinson, waxing poetically about a federal abortion ban. DeSantis and Tim Scott danced around it. So lots of scary stuff. But the reality of that sideshow was that the guy who was the presumptive nominee by every polling metric was not there. And it doesn't seem like any amount of legal trouble is going to change that from an electoral perspective. He was instead on X with Tucker. Tucker Carlson has a show on Twitter, known television or streaming medium. I thought they abandoned the Periscope thing, but Elon Musk's like, let's bring that back. This time, Tucker sat down with Donald Trump, pre-recorded interview, and they aired it. Tucker was giving a middle finger to Fox for firing him, and Trump was giving a middle finger to the rest of the Republican nominees by airing this in the middle of the debate. And this is how the interview ended. Tucker is asking Trump here if he thinks that the country is headed towards a civil war. Oh boy.
Illegally.
Do you think we're moving towards civil war?
There's tremendous passion and there's tremendous love. January 6th was a very interesting day because they don't report it properly. I believe it was the largest crowd I've ever spoken before. And some of the crowds I've spoken before. And like July 4th on the mall.
My God, the crowd size thing.
I think they had 1 million people there. But I think that the biggest crowd I've ever spoken before was on January 6th. And people that were in that crowd, a very, very small group of people. And we said, patriotically and peacefully and patriotically, right? Nobody ever says that. Go peacefully and patriotically. But people that were in that crowd that day, very small group of people went down there, and then there are a lot of scenarios that we can talk about. But people in that crowd said it was the most beautiful day they've ever experienced. There was love in that crowd. There was love and unity.
Can you pause it for a sec? So I'm wondering how he even launched into January 6th, because Tucker just asked him, are we headed towards civil war? And that would be fine if he wanted to make that pivot. But you're currently under a big microscope by federal prosecutor and the special counsel Jack Smith because of your actions in part on January 6th and the coup attempt and plotting that led up to that point. And tomorrow, buddy, you're going down to Georgia to get fingerprinted and mugshotted for your actions related to the election. So his desire to talk about this, I mean, he really can't help himself. He cannot help himself. And his lack of discipline is such a gift to prosecutors. But let's keep going.
People in that crowd said it was the most beautiful day they've ever experienced. There was love in that crowd. There was love and unity. I have never seen such spirit and such passion and such love. And I've also never seen simultaneously and from the same people such hatred of what they've done to our country.
So do you think it's possible that there's open conflict? We seem to be moving towards something.
I don't know, because I don't know what it, I can say this. There's a level of passion that I've never seen. There's a level of hatred that I've never seen, and that's probably a bad combination.
Donald Trump, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Wow. It sounds like he's talking about, the New York Giants fan club relative to the Philadelphia Eagles one or something. I mean, there's a lot of love there and a lot of passion, but a lot of hatred for the Eagles.
Donald Trump, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
More hate than ever. His dad was detained at a KKK rally.
Yeah.
Speaking of
We're not
passion and
going to
hatred.
have a civil war. There's not like a split that could easily happen, like happened in our Civil War between like the North and South, like the plantation economies of the South and the Northern industrial.
Don't tell that to Tim Pool.
Like at the very most, we're going to have these stochastic events of violence, but like an actual civil war between, I don't see it.
I mean, but did you see the passion on that day? Did you see the love? They're very passionate about their hatred, and they love overturning the democratic results of an election. It's Orwellian's overused, but war is peace, freedom, slavery. I guess hate is love now. It's just, the guy is a lunatic of the highest order, and he's dangerous.